In this video, I want to investigate the question of why is it so hard to focus nowadays? And how can we counteract those distracting influences to be able to focus for longer? Hello everyone, my name is Pedro, I'm a PhD student. Let's talk about focus. Let's start with an analogy. You are a bunny now. The bunny lives in this world made of patches. These green squares here are patches that the bunny can live inside, and it can find food, it can find shelter, it can find water, and these things that bunny needs to survive, that you need to survive, right? But there is a problem. As time goes by, bunny starts to notice that it becomes more difficult to find food, and it starts to suffer from hunger. Not only that, but there is also a constant fear of predators. Bunny has to take a decision. Either stay in the patch that it is, or move to a new patch that might have more food, that might have less predators. But there's a problem. These patches are not so close to each other, which means that in order to switch patches, there is a cost. There is a switching cost. But maybe Bunny has enough energy to cross to the other patch. And the patch is still full of food and there are no predators, so the hunger and the fear are left behind. And that is how Bunny lives its life. It keeps going around from patch to patch, and on every change there is hunger and fear that's left behind, but there is a switching cost, some energy cost or some opportunity cost that we have to take, that you have to take from switching from one patch to the other. And this is what is called the marginal value theorem, proposed by Eric Charnov in 1976. But you might say, okay, this is bollocks. What does it have to do with focus? Neuroscientists and psychologists have adapted the exact model to our ways of processing information and focus. So while the bunny, of course, forages for food, you there, human, you forage for information. These patches now, they are kind of like information patches. You consume a source of information, source of knowledge, or some kind of, it can be any kind of information. It can be a conversation, it can be listening to music, it may be reading a book, it may be studying a subject, it might be even drawing or playing a game. It can be any kind of information reward system. We stay in these patches of information, and as time goes by, we switch to something else that might have more information and more information and more information. However, while in the case of the bunny that was looking for food, it felt those signals in the shape of hunger and fear. In the case of the human, hunger is replaced by boredom, and fear is replaced by anxiety. Boredom is a craving. It's a natural and normal craving of how much we assess the value of the current activity. And anxiety is also actually a kind of fear. Scientists agree that there is a lot of fear of missing out. We keep checking social media and the news, or YouTube even, to try to get information that we think is more useful than the thing we're doing right now. Because it's so easy from an energy perspective to change from the homework that you were working on to social media, to the news, to a video even. Because it's so easy. We keep doing it. And it might feel easy, but there is still a switching cost. The switching cost is still there. The performance costs, the multitasking costs that we usually just don't realize. You probably realize, that's why you're watching this video, right? You probably realize that it's hard to keep focus. Check this out.
It turns out that when we two work in front of a computer, especially when our phone is nearby, we focus on one thing for just 40 seconds before we switch to doing something else. We think the problem is that our brains are distracted. This is what I've come to know as a symptom for the deeper problem, which runs much more deeply. It's the root cause of this distraction. It's not that we're distracted, it's that our brains are overstimulated. It's that we crave distraction in the first place. Our brains love these tiny little nuggets of information and social media and email and these things that we do over the course of the day.
We have to ask, what is the solution then? It has to have a solution. We can stay that way, right? Remember, focus is single tasking. What we want to maximize here is the single tasking and minimize the switching of tasks. First of all, if the switch has a switching cost, try to think of ways to increase the cost or reduce the accessibility related to switching tasks. And in that sense, what we also have to do is reduce our boredom and reduce our anxiety related to switching the task. This is tricky, right? But there are ways. To reduce this eagerness to switching tasks, one thing that scientists recommend is to do what's called a time-delayed break. Of course, that from time to time we have to take breaks. However, if every time we have to take a break, we delay it a little bit, like 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 10 minutes, and repeatedly increase that has an effect of increasing our resilience to switching tasks and our capacity of staying longer into focus. But the final and most important thing is what scientists have called metacognition or meta-awareness. Metacognition and meta-awareness is realizing the switches, is realizing when we change tasks, when we get distracted. And not only that, but realizing the effects of boredom, of anxiety, but also realizing the costs that are hidden in switching tasks, the performance costs that are related to switching tasks. This idea of metacognition and meta-awareness is closely related to mindfulness, and that's actually how practicing meditation increases your cognitive abilities, which is something that I talk in this video right here. As always, thank you for watching. Bye bye.